Welcome to the Left Behind Game Club. This week we play through Spec Ops The Line. Our next episode is about To the Moon, so if you're interested in that game, play with us and listen to our next episode. The debate for Spec Ops The Line got heated, and at one point Moe even brought up math. This game is important. It has one of the best stories of that generation.
Just like Pythagoras' theorem.
One of the best, and oh god. A plus B equals hypotenuse squared. Math.
You're listening to the Left Behind Game Club.
Welcome to the Left Behind Game Club, our never-ending attempt to make sure that no game is left behind. I'm your host, Jacob McCourt, and with me two friends. The first friend is Michael Ruffolo.
Wagwan.
And my second friend is Moe and Murtadi.
Excited to play good games.
Me too, and we're going to talk about a good game called Spec Ops The Line.
Well, we'll find out if it's a good game. That's the whole discussion.
That's the whole
Is it
thing.
a good game?
Oh, here we go. Can I set it up because this was my
Set
pick?
it up, Jacob.
So the game is developed by a company called Yager. They're based in Berlin. There were tons of other games in the Spec Ops series before Spec Ops The Line. I think there was 8 of them in a span of 5 years.
Mm-hmm.
They were like very generic military shooters along the lines of a Rainbow Six. In 2007, they started working on this game. It took 5 years to make. The lead designer of the game, Corey Davis, was on the team that made Fear and Condemned, or was on teams that made Fear and Condemned. 2K said it was a commercial failure. It was banned in Dubai because it's about Dubai. Yager now has gone on to make the game Dreadnought. But the setup is this. U.S. Army Colonel John Konrad volunteered the 33rd, which I think is a battalion, correct? An army of men.
About 1,500 men.
1,500 men to aid in the evacuation of Dubai. Sandstorms get bad. He defects from the army to assist the people of Dubai, and 6 months later, your main character, Martin Walker, and his 2 army
Homies.
bros, Lieutenant Adams and Sergeant Lugo, come in to make contact, and that's the setup. What is your past experience with this game?
So I've never played this game before. I've avoided spoilers about this game since it came out. And I've heard a lot about it. I've heard a lot of people say how great it is, and I know that it was critically or commercially underrated. It didn't quite sell as well as anyone hoped. It didn't quite get as much critical discussion and mindshare as I think it, maybe people think it deserves.
And Mo, what's your experience with it?
Knew nothing about it, and you spoke highly of it several times over when we were kind of brainstorming what games are we playing for the podcast. Before the podcast, after a couple of podcasts, all I kept hearing was, we should do Spec Ops The Line, guys. It's a good game. So it came up, and I knew nothing. Just like Michael, I didn't look at any spoilers or anything. And I was excited because there was guns. So
I said, hey, I'm going to be able to sell Mo on this because there are guns.
yeah, and you sold it.
I did. Well, I've played this game once before, about a year after it came out. And I knew a little bit about it, but I didn't know much. Played through it, and I think that this game itself is the reason why we do this podcast.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And if anyone's listening right now and you are at all curious to play it, I would say stop the podcast right now.
Yeah.
And play the game and then come back to this.
This is definitely one of those episodes that I don't think you get the value if you listen to this first and then decide if you want to go play it. I would say that most people should play this.
Third time's a charm, just to emphasize it. Do not listen to this podcast if you haven't played the game and you intend on playing it. And I think all 3 of us say, play this game and then maybe listen to this podcast.
I mean, maybe don't play it in another 3 or 4 years' time. But right now is probably a good time to play it.
Yeah. Where do you want to start with this? Because I feel like all 3 of us are ready to burst, and I don't know who's going to burst first.
Can you start us off with the first time that we start into the game and like what's happening and what the mechanics, what we're kind of doing?
Yeah. So I would say the first 3 levels, because the game is separated into chapters. There's 15 chapters. In the first 3, you're essentially set loose in Dubai.
And what's your role?
As Captain Marvel Walker.
Right.
Marvel.
Why are you there?
Marvel Walker. Martin Walker. You're there essentially to extract the 33rd, but really you're not. You're just there to make contact.
You're just there to do recon.
That's it.
You're just supposed to see what's happening and
then
report
leave.
back.
Yeah, and to be honest, so once again, my thing I do with every game, I didn't really pay attention to the initial like premise of the story, and it wasn't until actually I finished the game, and I was so confused because like a bunch of characters were coming out, and I'm like, why is this person matter? Who's this guy that's sitting?
I thought I killed this guy.
And then I had to I watched a video afterwards of like Spec Ops The Line explanation, and I'm like, okay, I get it. So I kind of maybe had a like not the best experience, but I don't know.
Right.
I didn't know what was going on. So yeah, you land, you have a gun, you have two guys following you.
Yeah, but first what happens is you're in a helicopter.
Yeah.
And it's like a
Yes.
very generic, like, shoot these other helicopters.
Typical first-person shooter
Typical.
game. Yeah.
But what's cool is the way the first shot is you think that you're the helicopter that's closest to the camera, and you're firing on the helicopter that's across. So even from the start of the game, like they're always about shifting your perspective, where they're like the one that you think that you're in actually gets shot down, and you're the opposing helicopter.
Wait, what?
I'm
Yeah.
confused.
So in the first scene, you know how the camera follows a helicopter? You think that you're in the helicopter that the camera is in, right?
Yeah.
That helicopter gets shot down, and you're actually in the one that you're across from.
Oh, I didn't really pay attention to that.
I didn't even piece that together.
Yeah.
I just paid attention as soon as they said start shooting. I had that machine gun. And I'm like, all right, take them all down.
so that like the perspective shifts again and
Yeah.
puts you in that helicopter. But all I'm saying is the first shot of the game
Yeah.
is a helicopter that you think you're in, gets shot down, and it's actually the one that you think is the enemy.
Gotcha.
So the symbolism has already started.
Very metaphorical.
Yeah, it is.
Because,
and, yeah, and I only know this because Brandon Keogh, who is a game critic, game academic, he wrote a book about Spec Ops The Line.
Really, a whole book?
A whole book, 140 pages. And he wrote it, I think, about a year after it came out. And I read the first 3 chapters of it.
Yeah.
Huh.
Did you guys know about like the fading, the black into white differences?
Yes.
So like in
Fading the black into white.
so apparently, this is from the video. They explained a little bit more. So I didn't notice it initially playing, but whenever the cutscene fades to white, that's when the main character is like dreaming or hallucinating. It's not actually happening the next part of the story. And then if it's going from black to like fading into black or coming out of black, that's actually what's happening in the game. So if you play it again, everything kind of makes sense. So I guess Jacob, do you want to like explain like why this game's this like good, I guess,
What
with
are we
bunny ears?
talking
Like,
about?
because I don't want to just talk
Do
about.
I
random stuff.
just like
Yeah.
just
So-
go for it? So
Yeah, just go for it.
I think it's a game, and I want your takes on this. It's a game about, it's a shooter about shooters. It's a game about games. And also, it's a game about PTSD and soldiers.
Yeah,
I feel
I
like
think
there are both of
I
those
think
things.
it's PTSD. So essentially, you play this soldier and you go out through the missions like a typical first-person shooter game where you take out bad guys, waves come out, and you may end up making decisions in the game like whether or not to do like bad things like shoot civilians or shoot like decide between 2 guys, either a thief from Dubai or like the commander that like found him and killed his family and brought him into justice. Like, which guy do you kill? And then later on, you find out that this soldier has been like hallucinating all these like weird situations, and it's kind of like in his head,
Living in his hero complex.
yeah. And so you kind of like at the end of the story, they're like, oh, all this stuff, like it's not exactly what happened. Like, you didn't have to kill those bad people. Everyone's already dead to begin with, and you're hallucinating killing people.
Or you were responsible for killing these people
Yeah.
that you thought you were saving.
It's just it's kind of like it's one of the reasons why we say play the game, because you won't really. This commentary is going to help you kind of understand a bit of it, but like after playing it, you're going to like kind of probably hopefully get a little bit of things you didn't see in the game.
You're going to rewatch the ending. You're going to probably read articles.
Yeah.
You're going to watch people do commentary. And most of the commentary is from like a year after the game came out. Like there's barely any new commentary on it. There's maybe 1 or 2 videos out there that are like, hey, 5 years later, what does this game still do? But there's a lot to it. And I think it's more than PTSD.
Yeah.
My take is that there's more to it than PTSD. Like it's commentary about like the game industry as a whole.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm interested because I have a virgin take. I finished it this morning. I did not look anything up.
Oh, okay. So
Great.
That's
So-
good.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Not to be jumping back and forth around, but I want to go to the first like kind of decision that you get to make where you're apparently hallucinating. It's so you're pulling up with your 2 battalion buddies or whatever, like soldier buddies, and
Adams and Lugo.
Adams and Lugo, and you see your other, I guess, 33rd soldier that's on the ground, and he has a gun to his head by the 33rd's like general, I guess, or whatever. And the question is, do you shoot the guys and save him, or because there's civilians around. So the premise is you either take him, like you take the bad guys out and risk hurting
the CIA operative.
Yeah.
Right.
So you either kill the bad guys and save your buddy, but risk killing civilians around there, or you let it just happen in front of you, let your buddy get killed and not risk killing all the civilians. What decision did you guys make, and why? Let's see a little bit of...
I killed.
You killed
I
who?
killed.
Who?
I didn't even realize there was a choice there. Like, I
Oh,
played
me
this game
neither.
twice. I didn't realize that you could have let it go.
The guy was kind of like he was really shady and like kind of like aggressive when you first meet him, because he's like, who are you? And we're like, who are you? And he's like, oh, I'm this guy. And we're like, okay, we're this guy. And he's like, I'm not believing you. And he just leaves. I'm like, okay, buddy. So later on, when you get like, you have to make the decision: do you save him or kill him? I'm like, it's my homie die. I don't care. Like, there's civilians here. Like, I'm gonna let.
Yeah.
There are a couple decision points.
Yeah, I waited, and then even by waiting, they eventually notice you up there, and they start shooting at you, and everyone eventually dies. Anyway. Yeah.
So is that the first decision you have to make?
I thought it wasn't it?
Yeah, I think it is, because just to go over the first 3 parts of the game, you start and your first thing is like, hey, shoot this bus to make the sand come out.
Oh, that's cool.
You notice that like the soldiers that you're fighting are Arabic soldiers, and it's, I think, the only time in the game when you're not shooting Americans.
I want to make a correction. They speak Farsi.
They speak Farsi. You're correct. They speak,
Hey.
because Ludo speaks Farsi back to
Yeah,
them.
because I don't.
Yeah,
The thing is,
good point.
I kind of understand like broken Arabic, and I don't understand a thing they're saying. That's why I was like, ah, damn it. I like when they, like, sometimes like in Call of Duty they actually have like Arabic like verbiage in it, and so I'm like, oh, I know what that means. I feel like I'm in this game.
Right.
But this one I was so detached. I'm like, yeah, I mean,
But I think what I'm getting at is that's the only time you hear Farsi. And they're basically saying like, hey, aren't they saying like, save us from the 33rd instead of like, hey, we want to kill you?
I don't know. I don't think.
You
Like-
played this twice. I didn't.
I think that they were saying like, hey, save us, don't shoot us. But then they hear you talking about like, oh, they're probably talking about the fact that they're going to kill us.
Oh, so you weren't meant to understand this. Only someone who actually like knows Farsi would have heard them say like, save us, save us. But for us, we just hear a foreign language and go, oh, they're probably talking about us.
I had subtitles on the whole game because
Was there
that's what I
subtitles
do
on
in
that?
every game.
But Lugo doesn't tell you what they're saying, right?
I'm pretty sure you see the subtitles.
I don't think they say anything.
I'd have to go back and check.
Either way-
it didn't strike me as anything of note.
Yeah.
Yeah. So before the first choice, mechanically, because those first 3 levels are basically just to show you like, hey, this is how you play, this is how you use cover, this is how you use grenades. What did you think of the game mechanically?
So annoyed that
It's Gears of War.
no,
Gears of
but
War
it's
counts.
not. You know why? Because in Gears of War, when you're behind cover and you want to leap over, you tap A.
Yeah.
And you go, oh. But in this game, you tap A and you pop out of cover and then you get shot.
Yeah, so it's harder. It doesn't have as smooth mechanics of Gears of
Yeah.
War, but it's similar, like cover system, first person shooter.
It's definitely
You
not a
have
real
like
game.
the melee. You have it's like generic first person shooter.
It's like Dark Sector.
Yeah.
It's like Dead to Rights Retribution.
yeah, basic like weapon assets that they
Don't
put
be
in.
mean.
It's between Kill Switch and Gears of War.
Yeah, I
I
thought
just named every game with third person mechanics.
Yeah, no, I felt a lot of Gears of War in it, but just harder to control Gears of War.
There's just
Yeah.
enough difference in their control scheme that it messes with your brain, because you're like, I know how the Gears works.
Yes.
This is not the Gears. What is this vault with B
That's
malarkey?
so dumb. I
Yeah.
hated it.
You-
I hated it.
Yeah.
And the number of times that I would melee the like cover that I was trying to
I
like
did that a
hop
couple
over.
times. Yeah,
I was like, this is why you don't put them both on the same button.
Hundo P.
yeah, it should have been A. All
There's so
continuous
many
A.
buttons that you could use.
Squad commands. Did you use them?
I did. I used them a lot. I used squad commands to pick off people in the distance that I didn't
Sometimes.
want to like spend the time slowly picking off, especially because Lugo is a sniper, so you know that he was getting them within 5-6 seconds. I used them a ton when it came time to be sneaky and stealthy.
Yeah, there's one. I only did it for that one. I think one mission where like I think you're saving the trucks or something. You're
You
in
have
like
to get to the trucks.
yeah, that one I did all stealth. I don't know
the water.
Yeah, were most games like completable using stealth?
No, I think
No.
at a certain point you had to open up.
Okay.
There are three areas that I was pretty sure you could do the vast majority with stealth.
Yeah, so the mechanic is like you can by pressing like one of the trigger bumpers, you can like command your people to do something. Usually it's to take someone out, but I also the most of the time I used it was to heal the other guy, because if someone dies, you'll say, "Oh, your buddy's dead," so you can tell your other guy to go save him, so you don't have to run across.
See, I was the hero of my own story. I ran over and healed them myself.
No, not worth.
What's cool is that button is kind of contextual. So if you have a silencer on your gun, they will take the guys out silenced.
Yeah, I kind of
Yep.
figured
Yeah.
that out later once I realized if I was silent, the guy would say, "Take him out silent."
I use the alternate weapon functions quite a bit. I use the laser sight on the P90. I use
never
the
used the
grenade
P90.
launcher on the Scar.
I rarely use that.
I used, I used the silencer as often as I could because I realized at some point, there's no damage differential between the silencer and no silencer.
Yeah.
I'm not losing distance, so I might as well be silenced at all times.
I pulled a complete 180 with like my usual like first person shooter things. I hate shotguns in almost every game.
Mm-hmm.
When you shotguns, because there's so many close quarter like combat like situations in this game, I felt I had one equipped almost the majority of the time.
Really?
I rarely swapped it. Yeah, especially
never
when you get the
used it.
semi-automatic like halfway through the game, you get the one.
The one that the heavy carries.
The AA-12.
No, not the AA-12. So the AA-12, fantastic.
That's the best
Amazing.
gun.
When I saw
Yeah.
when I saw just the ability to pick up an AA-12, I went back to when I Call of Duty. I'm like, I can't believe this. This is beautiful. so AA-12 was a
We live
fully
in a
automatic
horrible culture
shotgun.
that's taught us too much about guns.
Yeah. So, anyways, it wasn't even that. It was just the regular. It's not because you get the pump one early. That one is annoying to reload. But the other one, the second one you get is like it's semi-automatic, so you can go tush 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 tush. You can shoot it as much times as you want, and it holds a lot of like bullets. But it was beautiful for short range because you just walk in, spray and pray.
Favorite
And,
weapons?
I use the pistol for a lot of the game.
Really?
Yeah,
Never.
surprisingly. I would say for the first like 60% of the game, I always had a pistol on me.
What?
Yeah, and I used the
sounds
pistol.
crazy.
Well, like I was fulfilling my like Splinter Cell conviction-esque fantasies where I'm like, I'm going to go through this whole game as Sam Fisher
Yeah.
and I'm just going to like mow down everyone with like perfectly executed headshots.
Uh-huh.
Because there was that little like tropey thing where like you'd get a headshot and it would slow down for a second.
And fill up a bar.
Yeah.
And fill up fill up a bar, fill up the achievement bar.
tracker.
On the tracker, yeah. What did you use?
So in the first half of the game, I used the AK-47 a lot, the tried and true, the classic. You can shoot it in burst mode. You can shoot it in auto mode. There's a ton of ammo laying around everywhere. I found initially I was kind of annoyed with the lack of ammo.
Yeah, I think it was part of it. I don't know where I read it, like somewhere, I think in the game saying like there's not that much ammo in Dubai kind
Yeah.
of thing. That was their whole thing there.
And then I kept the, what is it, M14?
Yeah, M4.
M4.
Love
yeah.
that one.
I
It was
just
solid. It was a
kept
solid
it at
weapon.
almost all times. Even when I had zero ammo in it, I tended to keep it and just switch to my alternate weapon because I assume that there was some game logic of like, oh, okay, maybe they don't know how to drop or switch weapons, so I'm just going to drop
Yeah.
more ammo for this.
Would you prefer people use a specific weapon? Because for me, if I was telling someone, I'd say keep a shotgun because there's always ammo and you're always close quarters. Always close quarters. And I know I'm not a shotgun guy. I hate, like, in most games, I'm like, no, give me something better. But it was that. And
I
the
thought
saw.
the AA-12 was great.
But you got that at the end, like
Yeah.
the last couple.
I didn't find the shotguns worth it throughout. I need
Oh.
something that can kill
Likewise.
people at any distance.
I used the shotgun when I was out of ammo for other things, and I'm like, oh, I'm gonna grab the
Even
shotgun.
indoors?
Even indoors,
Even
yeah.
indoors.
No, indoors, as soon as I walked into a building, I put the shotgun out and I just like, because instead of aiming at anyone, I just pointed in a direction and I shot.
Spray
Just
and
shoot
pray.
the room.
Yeah, and then but the saw was pretty good too. Annoying reload, obviously the heavy machine gun, but it held a
love
lot of
the
ammo.
saw.
Held a lot of ammo.
So weapons. Should we go back to the first fork, if you will, like decision that you have to
Sure,
make?
what is it?
You had said it's the CIA guy.
Yeah.
Gould.
Gould, yes. Who like I didn't like second time through the game like
I don't
didn't really fully grasp what Gould was or who he was.
He was one of the few CIA operatives still around. And so there was, in terms of what I understood in the story, the two factions that were fighting were the 33rd, which is the army battalion that was in there that tried to initially escape and convoy people out before they met their fate, died, and recouped inside Dubai. And the other faction was the CIA, who, you come to find out, was intending everyone to die within Dubai, so that way news of what happened inside does not leak out, and the world does not blame the United States for the disaster that happened there.
It was the sandstorm, right?
It was a calculated decision.
And see, I didn't even get that. No,
Yeah.
I didn't get to that point.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
to be honest, I still like vaguely understand the story. I understand
Okay.
I understand the twist in the end, like how the guy just his character and his story, but I don't understand the big picture, why they were there, where they were going, what's the purpose of being in Dubai.
Okay, can we talk about the story for a bit?
Sure, go
Sure,
ahead.
yeah.
Okay.
It'll help me.
Which part of it?
Okay.
Because I think I spent most of my time thinking about the meta commentary of
Right.
the game rather than like what is actually going on in the game. Because I don't think it's that important.
Okay. So first question I'm going to ask. Have you guys read Joseph Conrad's Heart of Darkness?
I have not.
Okay, Mo.
Nope.
Have you guys seen Francis Ford Coppola's Apocalypse Now?
You're literally citing the two things this game like pulls from.
Yeah.
But no, I have not.
Mo?
Nope.
Okay. So I was kind of bored in this game from a story perspective because this game is a retelling of more Apocalypse Now than Heart of Darkness, which is Heart of Darkness is a story of a Dutch trader who goes down into the Congo, winds his way down the rivers to retrieve a company man, Kurtz, who you come to find out has raised himself to a level of a god by convincing the primitive Africans, the savages as he calls them, that he's a magical god.
Yeah.
And when Marlowe, your character, goes to bring him back, he says, absolutely no way. Go tell my fiance, these are my last words. And his last words are the horror. And quite on point. Apocalypse Now has the exact same words that Marlon Brando says throughout. And then in Heart of Darkness, the narrator goes back and talks to the fiance and lies to her and makes a moral decision to tell her that, his dying words was that he loved her. And so typically this type of story is about a man winding his way down to a foreign land, dealing with the savages, the people who are there, and then having some type of revelation before they go back home. In Apocalypse Now, the same typical type of story is told in Vietnam, where you are an American soldier who's sent in to go and find what's happened to the commander of this base. His name is Kurtz. And you get there, and it's Marlon Brando. And he says a bunch of stuff, and the exact same thing has happened. He's been raised to a god. So the second this game started, and we get into this world where within the first hour, one of the commanders says about your group, oh, they know not what they do. It really struck me as, oh, okay, we're on this journey to go find this decorated military leader who's in this foreign land, who clearly people are treating like the supreme leader of this area. This is Heart of Darkness. This is Apocalypse Now. And my brain kind of shut off a bit because I've read that book. I've watched that movie. I know what this story is. And then the game gives you a slight little twist. And the twist is that unlike in those other mediums, whether it's a book or a movie, this is playing more psychological games with you. And that's when I came back to it. And for me, the first sign that there was like psychologically something happening was when you go and you bomb people with the phosphorus.
White phosphorus, yeah.
Which was absolutely intense.
Did it catch you by surprise that there were civilians or no?
Not at all.
Because as soon as when you're aiming and you see like a giant crowd of people, I'm like, is this like so when you can see the 3D people that are like you're kind of mortaring in this one little mission where it's like, take these guys out, we have to cross them, and you find a convenient mortar right next to you that's fully like loaded and ready to go, and you use like a infrared camera to see the targets.
Like a Call of Duty-esque.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like AC-130 attack
AC-130
mission.
Which also, let me point out how good it was that you see always your reflection in the screen of the computer that you're using. Especially when you've completed bombing the crap out of everyone with this white phosphorus, the screen goes black and you just see your reflection for a second before it goes to the next segment. I was like, that is so sharp. Yeah. That is so well done.
When I saw like you can see like a crowd of people in that infrared like all bundled together, and they're like, take that out, like that's the bridge. You have to take out the bridge. I'm like, all right, that's the mission objective, but like I kind of like had that sense. Yeah. And then you walk up there and the civilians, I'm like, oh, okay, this is kind of expected.
So just before that, the reason it didn't surprise me was just before that you're essentially cleaning out a mall, and you come to find out that in this mall there were all these people who are camped out here, and they're running away. And the thing that was clear to me was, okay, the 33rd was in this mall. You walked into them in this mall. And now that you're here, this camp of people, they're all running and leaving and going somewhere else. So they're clearly running from you. They're not running from the 33rd because they were both here already.
Yeah.
So for me, it was like, okay, you're clearly the bad guy here. You're clearly doing something wrong and you don't realize it. And it was at that point that I had a quick check and I was like, okay, what was the start of this game? What was the premise of this game? You are a Delta Ops group who's going there to do recon work and to report back. And suddenly, as the commander of your squad, the hero that you are, rah, rah, America, you decided, I'm not going to go and follow these orders. I'm going to be the hero of this story.
You know where I think that whole shift for me happened was? That whole shift for me happened exactly as you're saying, that rah rah America, like I'm going to be the hero of this story, I'm going to save everyone, is in that first encounter. Because in your first encounter in the game with the bus and the sand when you shoot out the window, after the encounter, during the encounter, they're talking about it in very military language. It's like, take out the bogey, or like, watch my flank, like take out the target.
Yeah.
And after the battle is done, there's a cutscene, and Walker, you can tell, is a little bit shook up, like, and it that battle took a lot out of him. That changes a lot as the game goes on, because you aren't using military language. You're using tons of different language to describe what's going on, and none of it's military. But to me, that's the first time on my second playthrough when I noticed, oh, this guy, he's a little shook up after this first encounter. And let me tell you, that was the only time in the game that he was shook up from killing anybody.
That was a great observation, because that was one of the things that I appreciated the most about this game. How visually your character gets dirtier and more scarred up and more bloody as the game progresses, sort of reflecting like his internal state. And then the other thing is how he deals with commands. Like early, just like you said, he's very proper. And then after that, it slowly devolves. And by the end of the game, he's just saying like, oh, I effing did it.
Yeah,
like,
every other
him.
word is the F word.
Yeah. So yeah, I think that was like a great observation. It was definitely one of the things that stood out to me as like one of the best things about this game.
And did you notice that half of his face was black and the other half maybe not as black? So I thought of like Batman symbolism, Two-Face, like that's what I got at too. I
noticed that. I couldn't tell whether that was a like a limitation of the console generation, because this was a game that I'm playing on my Xbox 360. And while it was hard for me to really go back and put it into context of what those games looked like at that time. So I wasn't sure if it was a restriction of like the art style and the technology, or whether that was specifically intentional that way.
Didn't even notice the whole...
What did you play it on?
Steam.
On Steam?
PC, yeah.
Cool.
How did it look on PC?
Looked pretty good, but it was like it wasn't like revolutionary like graphics. It was just like a good first-person shooter that didn't offend me visually.
Yeah, I think a lot of this game is average. As awful as it sounds to say, like the gameplay, like the actual mechanics of the shooting, like I would even say they're like above average. There are way worse shooters than this.
It's a first-person shooter with cover technology. A third-person shooter with cover technology, like hiding behind an object. That's pretty much it. If you're thinking of a third-person shooter, this is it.
I couldn't agree more. When I started playing this game for maybe the first half hour, I was like, oh man, I remember how painfully generic third-person Unreal Engine shooters were. And I was honestly a little like annoyed that I was going to have to play another like 6-7 hours of it.
Yeah.
And then, things get better.
Yeah.
It gets better.
Yeah, it does get better. Not for the main character or his followers, but nonetheless, it gets better. We talked about the white phosphorus, the 47 people that you kill. Is it Lugo or is it...
Lugo has the initial upset at you killing him.
So what happens with Lugo at Adams and Walker when that happens?
Lugo says when the decision is being made whether to use the white phosphorus or not, he's like, we don't have to make this. We don't have to do this. And he's like, and Walker says, we have no choice. And Lugo says, there's always a choice. And then when you go in and you find all the murdered civilians who are burnt to a crisp, Lugo loses it and he says, like, you made us do this. You're the reason these people are dead. They're dead. There's no reason for this to have happened. The blood is on your hands. and Adams tries to calm him down, but you can tell that Adams agrees.
Yeah, they're both like equally like what the f did you just do?
And they both frequently throughout the game ask like, why are we doing this? This is not our mission. What is our mission now that you've completely commandeered it?
Yeah, and I feel like he's just like Walker's in the corner, just like in the fetal position, just like Konrad.
Who is
Konrad?
Konrad is the leading general of the 33rd.
I think Konrad is an obvious reference to Joseph Conrad, the guy who wrote Heart of Darkness.
Yeah.
In the game, Konrad is the commander of the 33rd Division.
Okay. We never see him at all, right? Because he's like, obviously for the ending, he's like dead.
You see
his psychic representation.
Yeah, because Walker and Konrad serve together. Because there's a story that Walker, and I think that's part of Walker's fixation, is that like this man saved my life one time. So like I want to find him to say like, what's up? Why are you doing this? Like that's the whole thing where I'm like,
he definitely hypes him up really early. He says he dragged me a mile, and I was just a bleeding stump.
he's a good man.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's no way he's doing all of this, so let's find him.
And then also early on, there's a discussion between Konrad and your character where he says like, why am I a good man? Because I saved you? Because I saved a lot of people. I've also killed a lot of people.
Whoa, sorry. Something came up that we'll talk about later, but I just made a connection there too.
And that I thought was just a great moment because it's like, yeah, just because you saved someone's life doesn't mean you're a good person. You're also committing a lot of horrible acts. So yeah.
Sorry, I just derailed that.
No, what clicked?
Should I skip ahead a little bit?
Go ahead.
So it just clicked to me that throughout this whole thing, like your radio doesn't have battery in it, right?
Right.
You're carrying around a dead radio,
yeah,
and like pretending to talk to it, and your guys that are with you are just like, "What is this guy doing?"
Oh, I didn't even notice that.
Yeah. So in like the final thing, he shows the walkie-talkie, and the back of the walkie-talkie where there'd be like a 9-volt battery. There's no battery. And he's been carrying around this thing talking to Konrad the whole time, but really he's just talking to himself.
Oh,
and he's the only one that can hear it.
Mm-hmm. It's helpful to sit back and think that like every conversation with Konrad doesn't actually happen.
And no one else can hear it.
Yeah.
That's the part that I just realized is that it's in your head. No one else can hear what's happening. So they're just like, why are we following you? But they just blindly continue to follow because of chain of command.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I thought so. I just want to pick up a little bit. The way this game was directed, from like a visual standpoint, was phenomenal. It was very cinematic. Moe, you have to have fallen in love with the one section where you enter hell, and there's flames all over, and I think Burj Khalifa, the tallest building in Dubai, is the thing that's separating the flames and all of the people in hell coming at you, and it looks just like the Eye of Sauron.
That's 100% what I thought
Looks
of.
like Barad-dûr.
What's Barad-dûr?
That's the Eye of Sauron's building, the tower. That's what it's called.
Oh, okay.
Or it could be reference to Orthanc. That's Isengard's tower. That's where. Yeah, we can get into this. Yeah, no. To be honest, it's funny. When I saw that, I'm like, "Yo, shout out to Saruman, cuz." And then, like, after I watched the video, they're like, "Oh, that's the Burj Khalifa." I'm like, "Nah, I don't know.
It's Saruman.
That's Mordor."
Yeah.
I just thought of Dante's Inferno.
Oh, okay.
Like as a not as the game made by Visceral Games, R.I.P. Visceral Games, like the novel.
Yeah.
Novel?
Yeah, it's
novel.
it's a poem. Yeah,
Yes,
novel
poem.
work.
I thought that
Literature.
came from like complete like left field, like that. Those like cinematics, I didn't understand. Like they were so not like what you were doing in the game. I was like, what is this like trying to say? And then I think afterwards I read it's like, oh, like he's visiting like hell where he is kind of thing. That was the whole like reference. But I'm like, that's like it went from like a super serious realistic game to like what, like, okay, this is like too much of a joke and like mystery, or not, sorry, like fantasy type.
Right.
The hallucinations, you mean?
Yeah, like they're just burning, everything's on fire, but it's not like a regular place on fire. This is like everywhere you see is red. It's not even fire, it's just red, and then there's fire everywhere. Yeah. So it's like it's like a cartoon hell. Like if you watch like South Park when they go to hell, it's like that type of like color palette, I guess.
I thought it was visually like fantastic.
I love the aquarium.
The aquarium
the
looked great.
mall. Yeah, a lot of that.
There were a lot of good visual elements that broke up the desert, the brown everywhere.
A lot of contrast. It's like, hey, there's this desert, but then hey, you're gonna go in this beautiful, like the tallest building in Dubai, which I think you said was
Burj Khalifa.
The Burj Khalifa, which is the last place you go into in the
That's
game.
the tower, yeah.
That's the
That's
tower.
where you find Konrad.
Things. The mall, the aquarium. A lot. The blue was really nice to break up all the sand.
I was really hoping there was gonna be a mission where like you shoot out like a aquarium and like
The water goes
comes
everywhere.
in and just takes out the whole army that you're fighting. That would have been so cool. But
Nah, dog, you got sand. You don't need water.
yeah, you do use sand a lot. There's a lot of so there's a lot of times where you shoot out like windows and there's like sand built up to it. Shout out to that strength of the glass that's holding up all that sand. And as soon as you take it out, like it'll bring down all the sand. And now you have a ramp to like go to the new next location kind of thing.
You know, all I could think of when you're shooting out the glass is Uncharted 2, where
haven't
you
played
shoot
it.
out. So there's a scene where you're in I think a cruise ship, and I think the cruise ship flips upside down, and you're shooting the glass to shoot the water. But we're gonna segue by saying Nolan North.
Nolan North, come
Nolan
on.
North. So Nolan North plays Captain Walker.
Ah.
He in that era was basically the Troy Baker of the mid-aughts to early 10s.
He's the everyman.
He was in
The
every
rascal,
single game.
the scamp,
He's player one.
the puckish rogue.
Yes, he's player one.
He
and
is player one.
Every hero from like 2005 to 2012 was probably Nolan North.
Mhm.
He played like five
He
major
played
characters
the Prince
every
of
year.
Persia. He played. I'm like, there's so many roles I
Nathan
can't
Drake,
even think of.
I
Yeah.
think he does cartoons. He's been
He played
on
the Rocketeer,
Pretty Little
I'm pretty
Liars
sure.
too. He's been on Pretty
Yeah.
Little Liars.
Yep.
He's been everywhere.
He's got an acting career.
He does.
Yeah, I thought the voice acting was really well done in this
Mm-hmm.
game. Being Nolan North, it kind of pulled me out of it a bit because I don't think his voice was that different than a lot of the other characters that I've seen him do or heard him do.
Here's my question. Do you think that was intentional? To have him like, because he can act. The man can do voices. He was the
Yeah.
Penguin in the Batman games, and I didn't even know it was him because I'm like, oh my god, that's Nolan North, because he was doing the Penguin
Right.
voice. But like,
I know what you're going for.
he's like the everyman. He's the Nathan Drake, but like he's a Nathan Drake that's descending into madness.
What you're saying is that they intentionally made it a generic shooter, so that way the contrast of the point that it was making would stand out.
Bingo.
I don't.
In all respects.
Yeah, I don't. I totally see that. I don't know if that was intentional. I think it was Nolan North is a safe pick, and we market this game like a traditional average shooter, so that way we sell it. Clearly, I don't think it worked because people were.
Did they market it a lot? 'Cause that's what I'm.
They did.
How would you market this game?
I think you market it in the same way that BioShock was marketed.
Or even Call
where
of Duty. I don't know.
You talk about the things that are at play, but you also highlight the insane gameplay mechanics and shooting of it. I thought there were a bunch of really good gameplay sequences that broke up the traditional running gun to cover and shoot. I thought it was a ton of fun to be on the back of a truck shooting, grenades all over the place. I thought it was a ton of fun being in the plane, in the helicopter shooting down other helicopters. There were all kinds of little sequences that I thought were great. And it's not as freeform as BioShock is.
Mm-hmm.
It's far more linear. But I think, it wouldn't have been the toughest era, I think, to market a linear shooter. There were a lot of other comparisons that you could draw to.
Yeah, I just think that like I know they're not the same game. I know like first person versus third person, but if you market this game like you would market Call of Duty, like a game like Call of Duty plays better, looks better, this game has a multiplayer component. Did you know that there was a multiplayer
No,
component?
no.
I saw it in the menus. I didn't touch it.
I didn't touch it
For
either.
obvious reasons.
Well, there's probably nobody playing it,
Yeah.
right? But like,
Who probably would have queued up against you guys.
just us. If you market it that way, like, what is the differentiation? Why wouldn't I just go and play the latest Call of Duty?
Right, which is why I think you need to say that this is a modern adaptation of Heart of Darkness.
But then, like, the twist,
No.
and there's no like payoff.
No. The last 15, 20, 10% of this game, that last little chunk, is a lot of the psychological twists that I think make it's not Heart of Darkness. It's not Apocalypse Now. It is a video game's take on it, and I think it plays to the strength of the medium. I don't think you'd be able to do the story of Spec Ops: The Line in film or in literature as well as you can do it in video games, because it leans into the different ways that you can play into how someone sees something. How the first time you play this, it's this way, and then you die and you come back and it's a different way.
Did this come out during like the whole like first person shooter like kind of like not die down, but like peak / die down.
It was on the peak and decline.
So no one's really looking for something besides either the next first person shooter or maybe something else. Like I know I looked it up really quickly. Some of the games that came out with it like around the same time were like Assassin's Creed 3, Batman Arkham City, another like I guess third person view type like game
that Nolan North is also in.
Yeah, Darksiders 2.
I don't want to poo-poo the marketing too much because it seems like they made some smart decisions. Like they tied a game that was clearly something very new, doing something very audacious that hadn't been done in the medium before, to a franchise that existed already, to try and build some credibility, some sales already.
Is there another Spec Ops game?
There were a lot of Spec Ops games.
There were 8 of them before this.
What?
But they were like Ghost Recon and Rainbow Six. Like they were strictly military shooters.
Yeah.
This is a reboot to this.
There's 6 to 8
that came out between like 97 and 2000.
Yeah, there were a lot.
Like in 6 years, 8 games came out, or probably even less than that. Probably 5 years.
Was there a Ghost Recon like Spec Ops, like on like PSP or something like that?
No, I think they're separate. I think
I know.
they're separate.
Yeah. Not together at all, but just the naming. Because when you first mentioned Spec Ops, I'm like, oh, we're gonna play Ghost Recon on PSP. Put a lot of hours in that, but no, it's completely different.
Just to get back to where we were in the story, we've already talked about kind of some of the major forks. We talked at the beginning about the hanging men, how you could pick between the soldier. You chose to walk away.
I chose to kill the guys who had the snipers.
Did you know you could do that? Soldier and civilian.
So I have this is what happened with me. As soon as I got to that point, it was like a tough decision. You shoot either the thief or you shoot the guy who
stole water so that way he could survive.
Yeah, or the guy that killed the guy's family because he stole the water.
Of bringing him in.
Yeah, so like they're both criminals. They both did something bad. Who do you like kind of kill? That one I was like, okay, this is kind of like a tough decision.
Yeah,
and it was. I looked up like what each decision does.
Oh.
And this is even worse than the that you're saying, because like when I read that, that's when I was just reading through it. And like the next line after, like they explain the decision is like, so it doesn't matter what you have to pick because the guy's hallucinating the whole time. I'm like, oh
no, internet.
Okay, guys, honestly, you need to promise me going forward you're not gonna look up.
That literally scarred me because I'm like, this sucks. Because I have it in my head that like he's like hallucinating the whole thing because it was literally the next line after that decision. Damn. So yeah, I ended up.
So you knew what was happening the whole time.
At that point, I knew that he was going through it, and I was kind of upset. I'm like, man, I might have just ruined the game. But at the same time, I still didn't get it.
So. You ruined the surprise.
Yeah, I ruined the surprise. But I ended up shooting the actual bad guy because I was like, you know what? I'm gonna make a decision that I would make. I'm gonna shoot the idiot guy that killed someone's family.
I did the same.
And then you find out later on that they're both actually dead corpses, and you're hallucinating that it's a thief and it's an actual thing. So it doesn't matter what you shoot; they're both.
And
dead
I think
corpses.
the snipers of the 33rd just use them to draw you out.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you think those snipers are being commanded by Konrad, but no, they're just like watching that area, waiting for you to try and kill you. Because you're a bad man.
Yeah.
And you need to die.
But you have mega weapons and you take everything out.
So after that, I can't really tell you point for point what happens after that. But
One second. Michael just mentioned something under his breath. Believability. When you fall off and you're falling off of buildings and banging everywhere and you survive.
You're sliding down a skyscraper.
Yeah, like literally off a skyscraper and you're falling, hitting things like metal beams. You're bouncing off of them. Like,
I just caught a metal beam.
Yeah, and then you end up falling another like 30 stories and you survive. At that point, I'm like, all right, this is not a serious game right
for
now.
Me, it was there are 1,500 military men who are trapped in the desert, and no one knows what's going on there. They're not able to communicate out. Like what? What? There's satellites. There are all kinds of stuff that
that a
military.
The sandstorms.
Oh, the sandstorm. Oh boy.
A lot of silicon. All the silicon in the sky.
Like I don't want to poo-poo it too much because you need like some amount of narrative structure so that way it isn't obvious like. Why aren't they communicating out? Sure, I'll believe that the sandstorm's blocking all communications. Mm-hmm. But also to think that the U.S. government would allow 1,500 of their men to be trapped in this area without getting daily communication from them seems a little bit far-fetched.
But the sandstorm.
But the sandstorm, fair. But the sandstorm.
Should we kind of move to like what happens near the end of the game, like when the hallucinations really start happening?
Sure. I want to do more decisions though.
Okay.
I think there's only one more.
Was there only one more?
To me, there was the decision of like when you're in after Lugo dies.
No.
When Lugo gets hung, you have a
the,
decision.
Right.
the civilians.
Yeah, there's a civilian, which reminded me of the
Call of Duty
What is
4.
it? No Russians.
No Russians in
No
the airport
Russians.
of
Is that Call of Duty 4?
I think so.
Yeah. Where you're in so you essentially your buddy Lugo is caught by these civilians and he's hung, and like you end up like just getting to him just in time to kind of tie him down, but and you're giving him like CPR, and your other buddy Adams is like keeping the civilians away, and they're all screaming and yelling at you, and you're just like, stay back, while you're resuscitating him, and the whole time you're like, oh, you better hope he lives, and then you find out Lugo dies, and then you get the decision, I guess, to like run through them or mow them down, I guess. It wasn't the option.
First time I played the game, I didn't realize that was a choice.
I didn't either.
I stopped, but I'm like, this game, like the decisions like really didn't matter at this point. So I'm like let me just get through this. Let me just. So I shot down the civilians.
Mo's mowing people down.
Can I ask a question?
Mowing
did you
people
guys? Oh, look what you did! Look what you
sorry.
did!
I get it.
Puns about death. God.
Puns about Mo's name.
No. So getting back to the uneasiness I feel right now about this name joke. Did you feel uneasy getting to the end of this game? Like, as you went further and further into darkness, did you feel uneasy at all? Or did you just like zone in and just finish the game?
When it got to that point, when it's like, here's your decision, which none of them really felt like decisions to me. It was just like, it's a linear path, pick one, and it won't affect you. It didn't really affect besides like the next script that was said after the initial interaction. So when I got to that, I was kind of like emotion dead. I was like, okay, this is just
taxed.
Yeah, this is the task I have to do right now. Let me go through it to find out where the story's going to go, because I don't have another option. So that's why I didn't think there was an option there. So I didn't really care about the decision when I got to that point.
You mean like someone who would have PTSD?
Yeah.
Boom. Game of the year.
I had game PTSD, like traumatized by like not given an option, but it's not really. It didn't feel like an option.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because I played it on my Extra Life stream, which was last weekend, 24 hours. I was by myself from like 4 a.m. till the end. So I played this game, the end of it, from 4 a.m. to 7 a.m. So for the first hour and a bit of that, I was exhausted. And I got into a zone, and I feel like that zone of just like, I don't even know what I'm doing. I'm moving forward. I'm getting to Konrad. Like everything else became tunnel vision, and I was like, I'm just here to get Konrad.
Mm-hmm.
Like that is the only thing that matters. Lugo's dead. Whatever. Who cares?
Mm-hmm.
I just need to get Konrad. And I feel like that design piece may have been intentional. Of like, hey, this is generic. You're not maybe exactly sure why. Who's this Riggs? Why do I care about this water? Why am I cutting off the water supply to people here? Like that to me was very deliberate.
Mm-hmm.
I was lost a lot of the times. The water thing was just another objective in my head, but I don't think it was. I don't want to say it was the story, because once again, I feel like I was detached a little bit from the story. It was just like, what is the current objective on the top left of the screen? What do I have to get to or do?
Because you've also ruined the story for you.
Yeah, but but I don't think it really like it. Yeah, it sucked because I knew like what the actual like premise was, but that didn't affect the story to me, because like, yeah, you're hallucinating, but I didn't know what he was hallucinating, what he wasn't. I was kind of following it at face value. Yeah. And then later on, you find out this is what he was hallucinating. This is what it was. And it's like, okay. It was less of a twist, but it still was a twist, because I didn't know what was hallucinations and what wasn't.
Yeah, so before Lugo's dead, there's the water choice, right? Or is that after Lugo's dead?
Was that a choice?
I didn't think that was a choice.
There was a choice with Riggs. So after you steal the water trucks like flip, and Riggs gets pinned underneath the truck.
Oh, shoot him.
Yeah, either shoot him or let him burn to death, and show the man who tried to take everyone's water no mercy, and let him have a slow and painful death.
Pop. I gave him a quick little shot.
Every single person that I found crawling or harmed, I would use the bullet and I would end them.
Yeah.
Really?
Because I feel like if you're in that situation and these, like, you try and minimize suffering when you can.
Yeah, I took him out.
I was frustrated with my character throughout the game, because I didn't want him to do any of this. I wanted him to follow his mission, which was to go see what was happening and report back. But because I was forced to go through this game playing as this character without having the option to pull back and to not do any of this, I was trying to minimize damage in whatever way I could. I knew that I couldn't avoid the white phosphorus incident. I knew there was no other choice. I tried, I looked. So whatever, I didn't feel bad about it. But
you didn't feel bad about killing 47 people.
I personally did not feel bad about it. My character should feel bad for it. But there was real disconnect between what I wanted to do and what my character felt his options were. And I mean, I got to give kudos to the game because they have those moments in the loading screens where they break the fourth wall and where they have characters say things to each other that are perfectly fine in the context, but are really speaking to you as the player, that essentially say things like, you know, if you don't have a choice, is it really a choice? If you don't have a choice, is it really like unethical? Is it really bad?
Yeah, there was one about killing where like killing for country is blah, blah, blah. But the end is basically like, what's the last thing about killing for sport or killing for fun? And that is, but anyway, there's like, you are still a good person. Do you feel like a hero yet? How many Americans have you killed today? Ludo's lucky because he gets to go home. Yeah. Like just very, like you said, fourth wall breaking stuff.
Did you, I don't know if this was part of the game, but I kind of noticed it whenever you took like a bad guy down, if they had like a little bit of health, they start doing the crawling thing and eventually die. If you do the melee like finisher move on them, you get like bonus ammo. I'm almost like 100% certain.
Yeah, you're so right.
So like when I noticed that halfway through, as soon as I saw anyone crawling, I'm like, free ammo box, blah blah. Because like when you walk over them after they're dead, there's hardly any like ammo that you find throughout the game, like ammo boxes, but they like load you up. So I reload and then I go up to them and I
yeah, because they don't let go of their gun until they're dead, and I think that's one of the first loading screens, which is like, oh, these are just tooltips. Well, they ain't tooltips.
The thing is, like when you wait till they die, they drop their weapon. But like if you finish them, you'll get weapon for 2-3 things. Like it really helps.
Obviously. It really helps.
Yeah.
That added ammo.
And then the load screen with the killing is to kill you for yourself is murder. To kill for your government is heroic. To kill for entertainment is harmless. So think of that last comment in the context of this is a video game. We are breaking the fourth wall by saying like, "Yo, shooters. What about them?"
Yeah, I think the game says a lot of very poignant and well thought out. It makes a lot of well thought out points. This is honestly the best interpretation or translation of Heart of Darkness or Apocalypse Now into video games that I could have ever expected, that I could have hoped for. I think usually video games do a bad job at translating other works and treating them seriously. And this game does a phenomenal job of it. But it also is mostly a retelling of that stuff.
Yeah, it was all right. I think if it didn't have the shooting point aspect, I may not have cared about the story at all. Like I think obviously that's a huge part of the game is the shooting and the killing and like war generals and stuff.
There was so much of the game that I like. While I got to be okay with the shooting and the mechanics of it, I was like, I don't want to be shooting more people. I just want to get to the next stage of the story. I want to see what his next hallucination was.
And on the opposite, that kept me in the game. Like the ability to be able to advance and have a task to do while I'm figuring out the story. That keeps me engaged, I guess.
It was probably good design because, to make a game this big with a budget that I assume it had, you need to appeal to the type of gamer that you are, where you like to roll through and shoot a lot of things, and you need to appeal to the type of gamer that I am.
I need continuous
there are a
activities.
Lot of stories.
Yeah, I need continuous activities, and you can add a story in there, and it'll be fantastic. But if I don't have continuous activities, I'm gonna not want to get to the end of your awesome story. Yeah, AKA gone home.
Should we go to the end of this game and just talk about the final sequence of it?
Sure.
I think we've kind of covered almost everything else, right?
I think so.
Yeah. Yeah. So the final sequence. You fight your way all the way up to the Burj Khalifa, and you're given coordinates by the radio man, who is not a very subtle reference to Apocalypse Now. Who there's a photojournalist who looks exactly the same, who's played by Dennis Hopper, and so you go up to this tower and you try to. He's like, "Here's Kurtz." And Kurtz is painting a big landscape portrait.
No. You're not.
Am I missing it?
You're just the Konrad.
Sorry.
Yeah, Konrad. But there's a part in there.
Sorry, I slipped up.
Lugo. Just before you get in there, there's a part where again you're gonna hallucinate because you see somebody coming out the door. That's Lugo. That you think is Lugo, but you're hallucinating, and it's actually just a generic army man.
Right.
And if
it's a heavy.
If it's a heavy, and if you die and go back, it's not Lugo again.
Yeah, totally. But that's also not the first hallucination with your teammates. When you're doing the zip line in a little bit earlier in the game, you kick a guy at the end of the zip line, and it's Adams. And Adams is looking up at you, and he's saying like, "What are you doing?
Yeah.
You're making a mistake." And if you let it go in the slow-mo time, he pulls his shotgun and he kills you.
Oh, I shot him.
Does.
He does, yeah. So because it's obviously not him,
Yeah.
right? It's
Did you shoot
someone
him?
from the 33rd. So the first time I died because I'm like, I'm not gonna shoot Adams. And then when I played it again, the hallucination happened again, but I ended up killing him.
Yeah, I shot him right away because I
And
saw
you-
him go for a gun.
Yeah, and you brutally beat him to death. And it's
You're right.
and you come to see that it's just like, oh, this is just a generic army dude, and your guys Lugo and Adams come up behind you, and they're like, why did you just beat that man like senselessly to death? And doesn't he just be like, I don't know, got into trouble?
They end up giving you an excuse. So like, no, we get it. Like stuff happens. Like, you know, they catch you by surprise, and it happens.
So sorry, now we can go back to the end of the game.
Yeah. So you go up the tower and you're told, you know, Konrad's in here, and you get up there and top of this really nice suite, and Konrad's talking to you as you're walking up to him.
Right before that, you walk up and there's a hallway of 33rd men, quote unquote 33rd men,
The
that are
generals
just like,
or commanders or something.
go up. He is waiting to see you.
Yeah, they're waiting like in like almost like in line next to each other, and you're walking in between them to the elevator, and they're like, yeah, he's waiting to see you. But it seemed like it'd be almost at that point it started feeling like almost like a dream because everything became dark, and it's like a random elevator. You just pulled up as if like there's nothing around you, unaffected by the sand that destroyed
Everything's clean.
And when
Yeah.
they said he is waiting, I took that as like a very biblical, like a very like capital H he, like you're gonna go up and
Right.
he is waiting to see
Interesting.
you. Yeah, that's the way I
Yeah, and
interpreted
so
that.
So
You go up there, and then you see, well, Konrad's like telling you, hey, come this way, come. I got lost for a second. I went the wrong way because it's like
You
a
went to
giant
the
suite.
washroom.
Yeah, there's a giant suite, and there's different stairs you can go up. And I went up the wrong one. And he's like, when you have time, just come on over here, kind of thing.
Because you can go in the bathroom and look at yourself in the mirror. You can
I
get the
didn't.
piece of intel from Konrad that I believe is his last like order.
Yep.
I think it's called Konrad's final order. So if you see that, you're like, what? And it's basically him just being like with his men,
Yeah.
just being like, hey, it was great. 33rd, we bit off more than we can chew. I think that's what it was. But you walk up to Konrad, who's painting this
he's
giant
painting this big landscape painting.
What's it of?
And it is of what looks to be a huddled local, and the world is burning around her, and there are dead, I would maybe assume zombies, that are, you know, kind of clinging on to the buildings and the walls and the fences, and they all look like they're dead, and it looks brutal. And
Isn't it the white phosphorus woman and her child?
that would be a good callback.
Yeah,
And then-
it actually was.
Oh,
I
was
think
it?
it was.
Okay.
One of them was like so, and when you just once again backtrack to the white phosphorus, when you destroy the group, there's this one like skeleton of this woman holding a baby that's burned alive, and you just like the camera focuses on her, and then at the end in that portrait, one of the centerpieces is that same thing, and you kind of have like that memory of like, holy crap, that's the same woman that died in that phosphorus.
And then Konrad walks behind the painting and kind of disappears, and you don't know where he went. And then you walk to the end of the pool area, the outside that the portrait was facing out to, and you find him in the chair, and he's dead
Been dead for a while.
And he
still-
killed himself too, right?
with a gun in his hand.
Yeah, he's like a
and
skeleton in a wheelchair.
Then the Konrad that you know, that you feel you've been engaging with this whole time, walks from behind you and starts unloading, starts explaining everything to you.
And telling you like, hey, all those decisions you made, you see quick flashbacks of like all those choices that weren't really choices, like all the people you thought were someone weren't really that person, and he's telling you, hey, you've like hallucinated it all, and then he gives you the decision, like, do you want to kill me or who do you really want to kill, and you get to choose either point the gun at him or point the gun at yourself.
Yeah, the truth is,
He counts to 5.
you're here because you wanted to feel like something you're not, a hero. Which, like, the craziest part to me, and I don't know if you guys noticed this, but halfway through the last cutscene, in the mirror, Konrad disappears, and you start talking in Konrad's voice.
Oh,
like
no way.
your lips,
I saw the lips
start moving.
I saw the lips.
Wow.
And
Yeah.
I was like,
yeah.
oh my God.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
That's
Yeah. I
at
didn't
that
notice
point.
that.
That's when I got okay. This guy's like talking to himself. At that point, when I saw the lips moving,
I got chills when I saw that.
because I didn't. When I saw that chair of the guy dead and it said Konrad, I'm like, I'm not kidding. It's gonna sound funny. I'm like, who the heck is Konrad? I'm not, because I didn't know. Like then I
We should have given you more of a warning to pay attention to the story.
Yeah, literally, it was back. Like, who is Konrad? Why? Because I remember I heard it throughout the game, but I'm like, why is he keep saying Konrad? Kind of like, what's the big deal with this guy? Is this his friend? Like, and then after watching the video afterwards, I'm like, okay, it all makes sense, kind of thing.
Mhm.
That he's a manifestation of your own
and
mind.
he's actually dead the whole time.
Yeah.
Then you
Yeah.
went-
And so he counts to 5, and you decide what you're going to do. Are you going to shoot him? Are you going to shoot yourself? What did you guys do?
There's multiple endings, right?
Yeah.
I didn't shoot anyone, and then he eventually shoots me.
Same here. I didn't shoot anyone.
This time I didn't shoot anybody.
And he
no,
shoots-
no, I'm sorry. This time I shot. The
Okay.
first time I think I shot both times actually.
Who'd
but
you
I've
shoot?
watched all the ending.
Bang, bang.
Shoot yourself.
You shoot yourself, or
You're
you
shooting.
shot?
You're shooting the manifestation of Konrad.
So you
you're
shoot
not,
Konrad, quote unquote.
So wait, you can
You
shoot.
can shoot your reflection in the mirror.
Yeah.
Which shoots your. Oh, I thought that if you let it go, like if you didn't do anything, then Konrad kills you, which is really just like you're killing
Mhm.
yourself.
Yeah,
Yep.
at split second when he does kill you, I watched the video of like the ending too. The camera shows you going up to your face and shooting yourself.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So a split second. It's like because when you're deciding who to shoot, you're pointing a camera at like a mirror. One's at yourself, one's at Konrad. But then at the end, when Konrad shoots you in the mirror, you quickly see your
Come
hand
on.
shooting you in the face.
Come on.
Yeah.
I've played this game twice and I didn't notice that.
Yeah, it's
and
like-
I've watched this ending probably 3 or 4 times.
Yeah,
too.
I thought it was just me, just like kind of like, oh, maybe I moved the stick too much. But then in the video, the same thing happened. The camera kind of quickly goes, and you see yourself shoot yourself.
Yeah.
Like from the bottom up.
Can I tell you that this is like probably this might be my favorite video game ending. Ending. Just like the
I have no. I have
sure
no-
it's Shakespearean and sure it's like this man is monologuing in front of me, but like think about for you usually final boss battles like just make me so angry
Mhm.
just because I'm like, great, I'm gonna have to do this thing, I'm not gonna enjoy the end, whatever. I just thought the end of this game, because you don't really get the confirmation of the twist until the end.
Mhm.
This is top 3 endings in a video game for sure for
Mhm.
me. It might even be the best.
Mhm.
Um.
I'm glad you really like it.
Yeah, I'm happy that you really like it and you think it's. But for me, I don't think it's top. I don't think it's like top 10. I want to say.
No?
Yeah.
Like there are better twists than this one.
Yeah.
But
Then-
like the twist doesn't happen until the end here.
Mm-hmm.
Really.
Yeah. Well, yeah. The confirmation of it. Yeah.
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 Like Would You Kindly is more impactful and bigger than this, but like Would You Kindly happens at 2/3 of the
You're
way
right.
through.
It does.
And I'm not going to spoil that.
And that's where BioShock should have ended.
That's where BioShock should have ended, but it didn't. It kept going. I just remember loving this ending and watching that 3-minute monologue thing over and over again after the first time I beat the game.
Did you guys look at like what some of the like story like means kind of videos and like some people are like trying to explain the premise? One guy was saying like because like it's all a hallucination. If you like shoot apparently if you shoot Konrad, you get a hallucination of like or not hallucination. You go like you get arrested or something. There's another little
Okay.
level
Yeah.
that happens afterwards.
So here's the 2 sets of endings.
Okay,
so there's
yeah.
the ending in front of the mirror where you either shoot yourself or you don't shoot. So you either die because you've killed yourself or you live
Yeah.
because you essentially silence Konrad, quote unquote. And then after that happens,
you get rid of Gollum.
you get rid of Gollum, exactly. My pretties. And then after that, you're out when the military comes to like scoop you up. There's actually another 3 endings that you
Yeah.
can see there.
Depending on what you do, like if you give up your weapons, if you shoot back, or if you get
Huh.
killed, there's like another set of like quick
Cool.
little
Mhm.
endings.
Yeah, if you give it up, it basically says the guys are like, it's time to go home, and someone in the car asks you, how did you survive this? And Nolan North's character, Captain Walker, goes, who said I survived?
Yeah.
The second ending is you shoot back, but you get killed. And essentially it's like home, we can never go home. And it's in Konrad's voice in Walker's head. And then the third ending is you win the firefight, which is extremely difficult because you have no armor because you're wearing Konrad's gear as you come out. And if you win, you basically say, welcome to Dubai at the end again.
Yeah,
Wow.
Bringing it all the way back.
And you go back to
You
the same
become
story.
Kurtz.
Yep.
Or Konrad.
Yeah, you become Kurtz/Konrad.
Yeah.
But those are the endings.
Huh.
Yeah.
It's a good ending.
It's a really good ending.
It's a really good ending. The thing that frustrates me about this is there is a really good message here. It's that, you should really take a cold hard look at yourself if you use video games to fulfill a sense of agency in your life, and to live out these power fantasies over and over. And if your power fantasies involve killing other people who are often of a different ethnicity than you are. But that message is probably not making it to the people who need it. But I'm glad that the message exists in video games, because some people are going to get that, and it's going to get through to some people. It'll be art as an agent of change in the world.
I don't want to say something bad, Jacob, and hopefully don't take offense to this, but I think Call of Duty 4's story was better than this.
I don't think it was Call of Duty 4. I think it was Call of Duty Modern Warfare.
Yeah. Well, Call of Duty 4 is Modern Warfare.
No. There was an MW.
What?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Call of Duty 4 is Modern Warfare 1.
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry.
You're
Modern
both
Warfare
right.
So you're saying Modern Warfare 2 or you're saying
Modern Warfare 2? The one that was...
Modern Warfare 2,
Stop.
you're saying. I'm
You-
saying Call of
you-
Duty 4.
You've just killed me.
Gutted 'em.
You've just you just
Jacob, do you need
Can I
help
get- I'll give
picking
you-
up your guts?
Really
They're on the
quickly.
ground.
No, really quickly, I'll tell you why. I thought and it was part of just the gameplay. There's different types of gameplay. There's the sniper mission.
gameplay.
Yeah, it's great. I loved it. I don't care. You're going quiet. You got to sneak this way, sneak that way. I don't know. I love the shooting was great in it. Maybe it's because it's a first-person shooter, and maybe because there's so many multiplayer moments that I've had. I love playing multiplayer on there. That could have been a huge part of it.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know. I kind of I would say that story was a lot cooler. And at the end, when you have to reach for the pistol and shoot the guy. Spoiler alert for Call of Duty 4. If you haven't played it, what the heck?
Great, every action movie that's ever been made.
Yeah, it's great.
I would accept that Modern Warfare 2 plays better than Spec Ops because it does. I would say Modern Warfare 2 as maybe not 2, but Modern Warfare as a series has been more impactful to the video game industry as a whole. But I would vehemently, if that's even a word, is it a word?
Vehemently. It's just a pronunciation thing. Keep going.
I would defend that this is my hill to die on.
Yeah. Okay.
This is one of the greatest stories from that generation of games. Point final.
Okay.
French.
You regress to French.
That I went there.
Look, I'll back you.
Okay. Only because I'm getting the crazy eyes like Walker, or do you realize his eyes were black during that whole last sequence?
I didn't. No, I'll back you. It was probably in the top 5 stories in games that I've seen. It's
really?
not.
It doesn't sound like it.
No, but I'm just bored with Heart of Darkness Apocalypse Now.
There you go.
I saw this coming a long way ago because I've experienced this type of story in a lot of ways.
Okay. Mo, you have a face that has a thought.
I don't. I just okay. I don't know the story. I don't know. I wasn't convinced that it's the greatest story of all time. It's a story. It's better than most in third person shooters, and those types of games. It's a good war story.
It's an important game.
Yeah.
It's not a fun game.
It's
Sure.
not. It is not a fun game to play.
That's where I'll agree. It's okay. Sure.
For me, it felt like reading Heart of Darkness, where I read Heart of Darkness because I knew it was important to read and to know, but I didn't enjoy reading Heart of Darkness.
Sell this game
It
to
has one of
children.
the
Hey,
best
it's as
stories of that
fun as
generation.
reading. Just like
It has
Pythagorean's theorem.
One of the best. And oh god, A plus B equals hypotenuse squared.
Yeah.
Math. Can I end
A
with
squared
one
is-
quote and then I'll just wrap it up?
Yeah.
This is a quote from Brandon Kehoe's book. I think it's in the introduction to the book. He basically says, only so many games can be absolutely uncritical and unthinking in their violence before players start to think more critically about what these games are asking of them and developers start to question what they are creating.
Totally. I'm
Boom.
on board. So, if you liked this episode of the Left Behind Game Club, you should go to iTunes, give it a 5-star rating, and let the world know. Find a friend who likes games. Find a friend who likes Heart of Darkness. Find someone in your life who has seen the movie Apocalypse Now and say, hey, did you enjoy that movie that was so very critically acclaimed and loved? You might also like this game. And after you play that game, listen to this podcast, because we'd appreciate it. We think it helps. Mo, where can the fine people find you at?
You can find me at Murtadi, and they wouldn't be able to, because they would have already played the game, and then they would have listened to this if they got to this point.
Exactly.
But yeah, Murtadi.
And Jacob McCourt, where can people find your rantings, your Walker-esque rantings?
They can find my Walker-esque rantings at Jacob McCourt on everything. You can watch me stream games for the Left Behind Game Club at jacobstreams.com. And I feel like after this podcast is done, me and Mo are going to have to hug.
And if they go through your 24-hour Extra Life stream, they'll be able to see you playing Spec Ops: The Line.
Yep.
So they'll be able to experience it through the eyes of crazy Walker McCourt. And you can find me at Ruffolo M on Twitter and MikeRuffolo.com, amongst other places online. That, my friends, is one last game left behind.